Imagine an unknown predator so bold. He didn't just stay hidden from the authorities, he wrote them letters. Not to confess, but to mock. To teach them how to spell his name, Zodiac. For years, his ciphers and taunts unsettled Northern California. A real-life phantom who whispered his deeds into the press and then vanished into the fog, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted investigators and armchair detectives for over half a century. This isn't a movie plot. This is the chilling, unsolved story of the Zodiac case. Welcome to True Crime Silent, where we explore investigative psychology, real unsolved cases, and the science of criminal behavior. Please subscribe, comment, and share. The Zodiac is an unidentified offender connected to a string of violent incidents that occurred in Northern California during the late 1960s and early 1970s. He is directly linked to 5 confirmed victims, with authorities suspecting he may have been responsible for others. The Zodiac became infamous by sending taunting letters to local newspapers and police, which included details only the perpetrator and law enforcement would know, along with a distinctive symbol resembling a zodiac sign. His first targets were young couples in secluded areas, with his methods evolving into more disturbing attacks. Despite extensive investigations and numerous suspects over the decades, including notorious names such as Ted Kaczynski and Charles Manson, his true identity remains a mystery. The case has inspired books and films, most notably the 2007 movie Zodiac. Various theories and suspects have emerged, including Arthur Leigh Allen, but definitive evidence has never been found. Interest in the case continues, with new suspects and theories surfacing even into the 2020s, proving the enduring intrigue surrounding this infamous mystery. The self-proclaimed Zodiac is an unidentified figure who unsettled communities in Northern California during the late 1960s and early 1970s. Authorities have directly linked him to 5 confirmed incidents and suspect he may have been connected to others. The Zodiac often included his unique symbol, a circle with a cross inside, on the many letters he sent to newspapers and police. In these messages, he claimed responsibility for certain acts and revealed details about the victims that only the offender and investigators could have known, such as what people were wearing and the number of times a weapon was used. The Zodiac began sending these letters to the press in 1969 and then abruptly stopped in 1974. Despite decades of intense investigation, authorities were never able to determine his identity, and the case remains unsolved. Over the years, numerous suspects have been investigated, including infamous names like Ted Kaczynski and Charles Manson. The mystery of the Zodiac has inspired countless books and films, such as the 1971 Clint Eastwood movie Dirty Harry and the 2007 film Zodiac, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, and Robert Downey Jr. The Zodiac's first 2 known incidents involved young couples sitting in parked cars in remote areas of Vallejo, California. On the night of December 20, 1968, 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen tragically lost their lives on Lake Herman Road. Then, early in the morning of July 5, 1969, he struck again using a flashlight to surprise 22-year-old Darlene Ferrin and 19-year-old Mike Mageau. Ferrin did not survive, while Mageau was left seriously injured. About an hour later, a man phoned the local police station, alerting officers to the scene and claiming responsibility for both this event and the earlier one involving Faraday and Jensen. Mageau later provided investigators with a description of the suspect, but no arrest was ever made. On August 1, 1969, the Zodiac, as he called himself, sent handwritten letters to 3 local newspapers. The letters were identical, beginning with the chilling words, "Dear Editor, I am the one responsible for the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman." These messages revealed details about the incidents that had not been made public. In the letters, the Zodiac warned editors that if they did not publish his writings, more violence could follow. Each letter contained his cross-circle symbol and a coded message, known as a cipher, the first of 3 that together were supposed to reveal his identity. When finally decoded, part of it read, "I like causing harm because it is so much fun." The Zodiac's next known incident took place on September 27, 1969. He restrained 22-year-old Cecilia Shepard and 20-year-old Brian Hartnell, who were having a picnic by Lake Berryessa, and then assaulted them with a knife. Both initially survived Hartnell by pretending to be unconscious, but Shepard later passed away from her injuries. The Zodiac wore a black hood along with a bib featuring his cross-circle symbol. Before losing consciousness, Shepard managed to observe him closely and later gave authorities a description, which matched the account previously given by Majo. The following case did not involve a young couple. On October 11, 1969, the Zodiac fatally targeted 29-year-old taxi driver Paul Stine in San Francisco. Afterward, he mailed a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle, providing specific details about the event. The envelope also contained a piece of the victim's clothing and a warning that his next plan would involve a school bus filled with children. Fortunately, this threat was never carried out. This particular case later inspired a famous scene in Clint Eastwood's 1971 film Dirty Harry. While some of the Zodiac's coded messages were eventually solved, one of the most challenging ciphers remained a mystery well into the 2020s. In 2020, the FBI confirmed a breakthrough when a team of international codebreakers successfully cracked it using advanced computer programs and complex mathematics. Police have theorized that the Zodiac may have been connected to as many as 5 additional cases before he stopped sending letters to the press in 1974. Yet, after decades of investigations and countless tips and leads, the identity of the Zodiac remained one of the world's most famous unsolved mysteries. Many considered the most likely suspect to be Arthur Leigh Allen, the only individual ever served with search warrants in the case. Allen, who passed away in 1992, was a former elementary school teacher from Vallejo, California. He was suspected in the 1966 death of Sherry Jo Bates, an incident that police believed might have been linked to the Zodiac. After Bates's death, 2 typed confession letters were mailed to police and a local newspaper. Investigators later determined the typewriter used was a Royal brand, and one was discovered in Allen's home. Although Allen did not match the composite sketch of the Zodiac, survivor Mike Majo identified Allen as resembling the man who targeted him. Police also noticed that Allen wore a watch featuring the Zodiac's cross-circle symbol. When questioned after the Lake Berryessa case, Allen was found with knives that appeared to have blood on them, though he explained they had been used on a chicken. In 1974, the same year the Zodiac's letter stopped, Allen was arrested on unrelated charges and placed in an institution. Still, not all evidence pointed toward Allen. DNA and fingerprints lifted from the Zodiac's letters and crime scenes did not match him. A handwriting expert also ruled him out, and a bloody handprint recovered from Paul Stine's cab was not Allen's either. In 2014, Gary L. Stewart published his book The Most Dangerous Animal, where he claimed that his biological father, Earl Van Best Jr., was the Zodiac. Stewart, who had been adopted, began investigating after learning about his birth parents. He argued that his father's name could be found within the Zodiac cipher, that a mugshot of his father resembled the composite sketch, and that his father's fingerprints with a diagonal scar aligned with the suspect's. However, investigators noted there was no conclusive proof tying Best to the case. Interest in the Zodiac has never faded. In the early 2020s, reports emerged of new names being suggested as potential suspects, though authorities continued to state that no definitive evidence existed. In 2021, an independent volunteer group called the Casebreakers claimed evidence pointed to Gary Francis Post, a Californian later accused of domestic violence. In 2022, author Jarrett Kobek argued in his book How to Find Zodiac that another man, Paul Dorr, could have been responsible again, based largely on circumstantial evidence. The most unsettling part of the Zodiac story isn't the attacks on couples in quiet spots. It's the threat he made that still, to this day, carries a chilling possibility. After the incident with a cab driver, he mailed a torn piece of the driver's clothing to a newspaper. Along with it came a warning. His next targets would be children on a school bus. That threat never came to life. Then suddenly he stopped. The letters ended. The case went cold. He wasn't caught. He didn't make headlines again. He simply faded back into everyday life, a shadow who may have lived quietly right among us. The scariest part is that the Zodiac wasn't some monster lurking in the dark. He was likely someone's neighbor, someone's coworker, even someone's father. And his deepest secret went with him, forever just out of reach. So who was he? The schoolteacher Arthur Leigh Allen, whose name came up but whose link was never confirmed. A man like Gary Post, suggested by modern researchers? Or a complete stranger, lost to history? The Zodiac case is still open, a cold mystery that sparks new theories with every passing year. The puzzle he left behind is unfinished, and that emptiness keeps drawing us back. What's your theory? Did the Zodiac leave his real name hidden in a cipher we haven't cracked? Or did he take that truth with him forever? Share your thoughts below. The mystery is, in a way, still in all of our hands.